Grand Rising family, it's Shay Seeking, and this is not your mama's Bible study, along with a little bit of his story lied. Well, a lot of his story lied, okay? So today, taking a little break, okay? Um, and I wanted to kind of go in on this. I accidentally found this while looking for something else, so I just thought let's just go ahead and read it real quick. Doesn't seem like it'll take that long. I actually found I was looking into some stuff about my genealogy, and then I looked into the slave laws of South Carolina. I think it's the latter one than this. And then when I went to go for it again, I was looking on my phone. When I went to look for it again, this one popped up first. I thought it was the same thing, but it's not. So we're gonna read this one, and then I'll go into looking into the other one because it's gonna be a little bit more lengthy with the next one. So it's very important at this point in time. I noticed someone put a post up, excuse me, the other day, speaking on the fact that Negro is supposedly not going to be on this 2020 census. And, you know, we all have to go ahead and evaluate the fact if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Again, we are the only people, the so-called American Negroes, that have had our nationalities taken away and our status or so-called race changed over and over again. No other people in the world, I believe, have had their status changed as much. Okay. And we are the ones that are in this land, which is our original homeland for lots of us. Okay. Because we're finding out that the slave trade was fabricated. Um, so I think it's very important for us to be looking into stuff like this. I know a lot of people are still not interested in these things, but they are going to be a very big factor for us going forward. Especially now we're going through this grand awakening, again, grand rising, because we're going to continue to rise and never fall again. So let's go ahead and look into this. So yeah, this is Slave Codes 1690 to 1865. And it says South Carolina's earliest formal code of law regarding slaves, established in 1690, borrowed heavily from the statutes. Now, okay, I'll talk about it at the end. Governing slavery on the Caribbean island of Barbados, which were enacted in 1661 as a measure of to protect a small white elite. Now, it's funny how we're talking about these elites back then, and we're still talking about these elites now. And I don't know. Okay. Okay. From a large restive African labor force. Okay. Uh, from a large, okay, African labor force. Okay. So as they evolved throughout the colonial and antebellum years, the codes reflected the fear of the planting, okay, the planters, the planting class. I can't tell you that they were all so-called white men for sure. I'm pretty sure some of these people were. I'm just starting to use colonizers or foreigners, okay, because that's just a wide range for whoever it was, okay. Because it's very important for us to see that there were people that looked like us that were involved in some of these deeds that were done to us as well, okay. And a lot of these people were our offspring, but you know, we have to acknowledge what was done in the past. But at this point in time, we all have one common problem maker that has tended to call the other people the ones with the problem, like the Negro problem, the Indian problem, and they're the biggest problem that was ever created or put on the face of the earth. Okay, if you want to go ahead and get biblical with it. So again, the planting class, like I look at it, okay, would be the earlier people that came here to seed the nation or to mix with the Aboriginals, who were more than likely, most of them, so-called black people, or darker melanated Aboriginal or indigenous people from other places that were brought here as well. And again, a lot of us don't want to look at it that way, but a lot of this was a thing that was going, slavery was more about breeding than anything. And we're going to go into some other stuff that I found from antiquities that is talking about this very heavily. So later on, but the planting classes are the ones that God sent here. In Genesis 1, when you think that we're talking about plants and animals, we're actually talking about coat of arms and family crest and different groups of people, foreign nations that were put here for reign, to subdue, okay, to replenish, okay, mainly, and to till the ground. That all has to do with the enslaving and the manipulating and the killing and the raping and pillaging of our people here on this landmass that they remove from his story in order to put their children, like the Webster's Dictionary 1828 says, that the term American was originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper colored people that were found here by the Europeans, but it now applies to the offspring of the Europe, or the children or descendants of the European. So in that point, we have to make reference to things like that. It's very important, okay? So the planting class and the racial character of slavery in the New World. Again, it was a new world to them, okay? But it was the old world, or the Old Testament to us. And the Old Testament is nothing more than likely, which I'm going to go into deeply, and we're going to show you some things here, okay, is with the separate thing that I'm working on here, that, let's see, came here, okay, and did certain acts and things to the people, and basically wrote them out along the way. Different scribes or writers or whoever wrote them out along the way, and they stacked them up in biblio form, okay, or into the Bible, okay. There is no one here that can confirm, unless you have a Bible from before, or original first printing of a Bible from the 1600s, okay, in your hands, and I would like to see one so that we can see what was going on in that actual text or in that book. Just because it says it's from 1611 doesn't mean that that's originally what was in the text in 1611. This is why we need a Bible from 1611 to confirm this, okay? So when we're always looking at prophecy or plan, again, even if I wrote the Bible in 1600, I could predict, if I'm the only one that has the information about myself, my group of people, and the people of the land, the original people, I can create the narrative forever using those things on the as a basis, okay? So again, we always have to wonder, prophecy or plan, okay? So anyhow, okay, the 1690 Act for the Better Ordering of Slaves, which was quickly disallowed by the Lord's proprietors. Now, who is the Lord? Because when we go back into this other book about South Carolina and the slave laws, we're going to be talking about Canaan. Now, I'm not sure exactly what it was. I just seen Canaan. I got excited that that was in there, and I made sure to take a screenshot. So when we go over those laws, we can see exactly what they were saying. It might be something to add to our theory, and it might be something that may add to theirs. Okay, but we'll see. Okay, so by the Lords, and again, the Lord is a man of war. Don't ever forget that, and then use that when you're reading the text to see if this is what you see, and if someone may have misled you as to think it's something else, and that he was coming to free someone else that may not have had anything to do with you. Okay, so and we do know that his garment or whatever was going to be, when he came back, or is supposedly coming back, it was going to be drenched in blood. Okay, so proprietors who mistrusted the intentions of the colony's Barbadian planters. Okay, so they didn't trust the Barbadian planters. But then again, if we go back to, I mean, that could be speaking of Barbados, because I think it just spoke of that. But then again, they were trying to call these Indians in South Carolina, some of these people, the remnants or descendants of the Berbers, okay, from Northern Africa, I believe. Okay, so let's see, codified the institution of chattel slavery in South Carolina. Slaves were required to get written passes from their masters or lords, because this term is also used in etymology in order to explain what a lord, a landlord, okay, because we know that this is a corporation that is running things here, a foreign entity in our land that has the power to rule the people of the land or their citizens, which are also slaves, okay? Commoners, when we go back to the caste system, or servants, or again, the outcast, okay? Or the undesirables, okay? Dalit people, okay? So, from their masters to travel from the plantations, okay? The act provided for a corporal punishment of slaves, though branding, nose slitting, and I wonder what the hell this is, really. I'm going to have to look that up, because I've heard of it, but I've never looked to see exactly what they did and why. You know what I'm saying? And emasculation, this is more than likely castration, because the caste system, hence caste, hence your celebrities that are a part of a caste, that most of them are transgender, and you just think that this just came up. You think that this is something new under the sun. It's just they've been laying down things very discreetly, very creepingly, like it says in Genesis, the creeping thing. Okay? This stuff has been going on. If you go back and look at theater, the fact that women could not perform, they would use men. This is why they created corsets, even though women wore them. But again, women are looking up to Hollywood, into theater, in order to see what the latest trends and fashions are, which is why we have been known to follow up on some of the makeup trends and stuff. Because again, we are looking at people that need to make themselves look more feminine and taking our beauty tips from them, okay, when they're not what you think they are. Okay, while making the so-called woman more plastic and fake by getting all of this surgery and using all of these techniques and wearing all of this stuff and wigs and everything like that. I'm guilty of these things sometimes. But that doesn't mean I can't speak on it. And, everybody has to work at their own pace at what they're doing. Okay. So, yeah. So anyhow, there's a lot of this stuff going on, and castration or emasculation is not one. I think people need to go back to Genesis and look at the two forms of creation that are in that first book. And I think you need to read them very slowly, and you need to take out an etymology dictionary and look at and read every definition as you go through that creation story, and you see what we're really dealing with. Okay? So this did not just start now. I'm talking first presidents, first rulers and things, kings and queens of nobility being transgender. Okay? So following the disallowance by the proprietors, a new slave code, again, based on the Barbadian principle, was enacted in 1696, even though slaves constituted a minority of the population at the time. The situation of the colonies nascent planting, well, let's see what that word is, because I really don't know. And I got to go here. I hope this is how it was spelled. Okay, 1620. Wait, where are we at here? Because I'm just going to ask you guys if we're in the 6th day. And when I say that, that means think about what we're saying here and the terms that we're using, and go back into your Bible and read the 6th day or what happened in that day, and see if it makes reference to this, because I'm telling you that the book is not as old as they tell you it is. Okay? So what was this? Again, based on, okay, through slave constituted a minority. Okay. Okay. The situation of the colony's nascent planting class. See, because I told you that these planters, it has a dual purpose. Okay. They were planting themselves here and seeding these nations with children, some of them. Some of them were also castrated, but also, okay, there were some that weren't. Okay. And they needed to, these families of nobility needed to spread their seed. And you think that seeding with a CEDE is different than that one, when again they all have dual purposes. So when we're talking about planters, we're talking about people that were planting themselves amongst the trees that were already here. Okay. Planting their seed in them and then taking the fruit thereof. Okay. As their children, whether they were their born children or not. Okay. So let's go ahead. So we're in the 1600s. Okay. And this is the 1620s, in the act of being born. 1706, in the figurative sense of being, beginning to exist or grow, coming into being. So living creatures that God created, okay, that he blew the breath in, that is speaking of foreign entities in a way. Rather they are native to the land or they are just native to a whole nother place. In general, meaning that, like in Genesis, they would leave their mother and father and cleave onto their wife, which a wife is just another piece of property that they would be able to obtain, and any children that were there, they would be able to take them as their children or their property or their slaves or whatnot. Okay, so, okay, beginning to, now, what does this Genesis 1 say? Because everybody's worried about race right now, and I already did the video on what I think about race. But since we want to... Okay, so since we're going there, okay, Genesis 1 is about when God began creating. Now, this is when he began creating, okay? This is the story of his creation on top of a nation that is a prior nation of old worlds that are new to him. So when he began creating the heavens and the earth, which basically just means his house where he would reside and his children, the foreigners that came over to a land of milk and honey, okay? And the earth, which if you look in your concordance, you will see several different times when the word earth is used to describe the inhabitants of a land, which would be something like Aboriginal, which would be the first, before anyone, people that would be residing on a landmass. This has been done all over the plane or so-called world to create their world on top of yours. So the earth was at first a shapeless, chaotic mass, meaning that it didn't have anything added to it. Because when he is going to go and, season is one of the words that go along with it. But what is the word that I'm looking for that was actually used? Blight, which is to lighten up, things of this nature, to add something to it, okay? Or flood it or water it, okay? So it had none of that at first. It was a chaotic mass, okay? Meaning that they had no control over it at first, okay? When they first had to send those that could start to get some type of control, which is why there were Jesuits and different types of ministers, which are basically, if you look at the different definition, I can't remember if it's a minister or a I think it's the term is ministry. You'll see that it is a person that is to deliver a message or convince someone of something. They went into groups of indigenous people in order to plant the seed of religion in their heads first. Nobody had a Bible then. That's what I mean by nobody had a Bible in the Bible in that sense. Okay? So and then even later on in the like a lot of these Bibles will say the of antiquity, this is only for church purposes, because again, the pastor is the one, or the minister or whoever he was, um, would be delivering this message while holding a book that is said to be the Bible. With most of these people that he was talking to didn't even understand their language all of the way. So he was the one that was there speaking in parables and all these things in order to get you to have a perception of what was going to be happening. Okay. When again, at a lot of times your ancestors were supposedly told not to read. Okay. So this is the thing. They were using religion and dogma and other things in order to manipulate the masses first. So when they did give you the Bible, or your generations after you, that you would be able to see it in the way that they planted it in your, so again, they were planting that too as well in your head. Just like your dollar bill with that pyramid at the top, that is the same thing as the caste system that the eye is trapped in with the light behind it, because they're giving light, like God says in Genesis again. Okay, which is blinding your third eye. Okay, your way of reasoning and seeing, your natural way that you would see. So whatever was inside of you, and if you use a certain level of consciousness in order, and consciousness isn't in the Bible too, so is pineal, where I think it was Abraham kept on seeing the Lord, or the God. Okay, he kept seeing a God, because there's several different ones in here. Even God says this. Okay, so before we get too off subject, I'm just saying that it was a chaotic mass because they could not deal with it at first. With the Spirit of God brooding like a bird or a hen would be hovering over the dark vapors. Now, this is about the darkness. This is about the dark energy, what they call dark, to make you think it is actually a bad thing. Okay, if we want to know where so-called racism came from, and this whole thing about making one race some way, and it's all talking about it in your Bible, but again, you have to be at a certain level of understanding, which means you have to go ahead and give up a lot of these worldly things that have been used to tools like television and all of these other sources, and the education that you thought you learned in school, which is just another form of an indoctrination station. These lies the teachers tell, these lies the pastors tell, they're not telling you the truth. Okay, so you have to go ahead and dismiss a lot of these things in order to use knowledge, discernment, wisdom, and guides that are within you. Okay, just like they made demon something horrible when it's actually something that is a conscious thing that is with you from the day that you're born. So if God didn't want you to have demons, why did he create people with them in them already? See, and we're shunning that because we think it's something bad, when it's, again, let's stop. So okay, so then God said, let there be light, and light appeared. If I'm telling you that Aboriginal people are dark-skinned, melanated people, regardless if they have curly hair, tightly coiled hair, straight hair, whatever type of hair texture, okay, which were mixed once they started bringing lots of different varieties of people over here, which they would call breeds or chattel, the same thing they do with animals, okay? This is why they use the analogies of animalistic and plant-like things here, because you would not be able to decipher the difference, because you've been had it implanted in you and given a perception as to what we're talking about instead of your own chance to look it up on your own. Okay, so once he created light, he was pleased with it, and he divided the light from the darkness. So again, I don't want to hear anyone telling me about anything, because subconsciously this is teaching you something about yourself and others, no matter what so-called race you are. God created this. This is the first. Why are we dealing with this? And we think that this is a big thing. The people are not even really on that level of being so-called racist. We all probably looking for the same things, pretty much, to just have a normal life, happy children, grow old, and these things like this. But no, we have to be a part of this construct, okay? The slave system, okay, that they've prepared, okay, for you, so that they can get stronger and you can keep feeding the belly of the beast. But without you being the heavier parts of this pyramid, that we're both uh, foreigners and aboriginals being the bottom bases that are the biggest part of this pyramid, recognizing who the real culprit is. And I'm saying it's your government. Okay? So we're talking about racism right here in Genesis, the first sentences. If you look into the definitions, that is for you to do. I've already done the work. So this is the act of something coming into being, beginning to exist or grow, coming into being, arising, young, again, at a young age of them coming here. They count these things in ages, okay? Planters, farmers, pilgrims, these are different voyagers, these are different ages, okay? To a certain extent. So again, all of the stuff that they brought in is supposed to rise up over the Aboriginal. And if you can look at the condition of us back then from their own story all the way up until now, you can just put it together that this is more than likely what it is. Okay? And if there was a God of this creation, he's looking out for a certain group of people and not the others. But that certain group of people is very crafty because they know who you are and you don't know who you are. So they've been able to give you a perception of who the hell you are. Immature. Again, we talk about this. God talks about this in the Bible. Immature and putting certain nations in charge of other people. And a lot of things we don't talk about is the so-called white slavery, because it was probably more than likely our ancestors that were holding some of these people, these foreigners here, as slaves in a sense. But our system of slavery and our caste system was not like theirs. Everybody was included. Okay? They didn't kick people out. Okay? And put them on the bottom forever. So again, it was fair treatment to a certain extent. Okay. So what we're talking about when we're talking about save somebody out of Egypt, we're more than likely probably talking about a foreign people that were enslaved because they got captured or something when they came here. Okay. So you have to know who you are first. This is why you have to stand in your core and then vibrate there. Okay, then no one can tell you anything, and you're going to be changed in a sense, but for the better. Okay, immature. Okay, present participle of not. Wait, Nazi. Oh, damn. Who is this? Wow. Okay, to be born, give birth. Gene is here because we're talking about genes, and we're talking about gene splicing. We're talking about gene assist. Okay. Give birth. Okay. Birth of a nation. Hence, birth of a nation. Beget, again, is another term that is used when you get something that you can have and hold. To have and to hold. Okay. This could be children. This could be lands. This could be slaves. This could be all types of things. But that's how you beget something. Okay. And then we go down here to a related entry, which is gene, give birth, beget. Again, this doesn't lie. Okay. Now let's go over here. Okay. Let's go in here. Gene, also gen. Okay. They told you to be afraid of the gen, but the gen is probably the closest to the original that you can even get. Okay. But you're not vibrating on that energy, nowhere near that energy, because we have fallen for the okie doke. We've fallen for all of their crafty counsel through imagery, through movies, and all the things that they place subliminally in these things, especially in your Disney Channel movies that your children are watching on repeat that have all kind of foul things hidden inside of them and hidden messages. Yeah, these are the tools that they've been able to use, especially religion. I'm sorry to tell you. So give birth, beget, derivatives referring to procreation. And familial. Now, again, in Genesis, God would not be telling somebody to replenish anything if there wasn't anything there before. You dig? So familial and tribal groups. Okay, so we can look at all of these or whatever. Genitive, gentry, gentile, German, blah, blah, whatever. We're looking at all these. And then it says here, okay, adjective of the same parents or grandparents. Okay. Class, sort, variety. This is a part of the caste system. Friendly, deliberately doing good to others. And I don't know where that fits in, but I guess to their people. With child, again. Okay. Begets, bears, Jana or Jane, Anna, offspring, children, person, again, because these people get to be persons, you don't. Okay? You get to be dead by law by calling yourself black. They get to be persons or Americans. They don't have to be European Americans. They don't have to be, if we all just came from Africa, why don't they call themselves African European Americans? Okay? So again, these are misnomers that they've given you in order to not let you know who you are, first of all, and so that they can continue to treat you some other type of way. Okay? So a birth or origin, born. To become, happen, they bear, genos, race. Okay? Again, here we go into genosis, race, kind. Okay? Birth, offspring, stock. Again, what are we talking about here? To beget, to be born, race, stock, kind, family, birth, descent, meaning you're dying out even. Okay? Origin, all of these things. Look at this. Procreative divinity, inborn, something spirits. Okay, so anyways, a shoot, a bud, grasses are used in order to describe people in the Bible, and waters are used to define or speak of foreigners. Okay? So let's see, kinsman, kingsman. So beget, create. Okay, so nature, race. Okay, again. So let's just go back to the thing that we were using. I just like to go and be thorough with you guys. And then if you want to go back, you can go look at it your own self. Okay? But let's see. So yeah, this the situation of the colonies nascent planting class during the time. So you would have to know the real time. You would have to know that they're adding 1,000 years in to deceive you as to what these dates mean. And I'm going to very much show you this throughout the course of this channel in this time. Not this time, but, we'll gradually see, okay? However, made rigid enforcement of slave code difficult, fledgling planters, okay, often labored alongside their slaves and servants to clear the land and raise livestock. In addition, slaves, many of them they armed, frequently traveled unsupervised between plantations to Charleston. So there's one more word that I wanted to look at. Fledgling. Okay. A lot of people ain't going to like this because it's going to force you to do your own research. It's going to force you to read. It's going to force you to think. It's going to force you to start looking at this worldly realm that you love so much in a different way. And that's why a lot of people don't like to tap on it. And they don't want to hear what you have to say when you're speaking in these terms. So let's see. Fledgling. Also fledgling, 1830. Untried. Okay. 1846 as a noun meaning a young bird. One newly fledged, from fledged. See, because a lot of these people, like this sister did this video, I can't remember what it's called, but maybe I'll put it in the description bar, speaking about the chinos or how certain other breeds of melanated people were transported or moved into the Americas in order to form, in my opinion, other groups or offspring. Okay, but again, we have to go ahead and say that these young birds, excuse me, including the fact that one of the first families that came here to America's last name was Bird. But then again, we're going to go ahead and look at the fact that all of the people that were fighting or under the General Washington, which would be a lord in my eyes, okay, and his sons would be his military force or might, okay, and the generals, again, there's that gene, okay, which could be men of renown because they were here before we even had a president, okay, making way for the getting the firmament ready or the establishment ready so that someone could come here and stay in the east of the garden, which could be Washington, D.C., so that they can reign on the earth. And that means you. So, diminutive, ling, okay, also reminds me of the coat of arms of the Spaniards. Didn't they come here? The Germans, didn't they come here? The French? No? Okay. So these are the first peoples. These are some of the first, and then some of them have pigeons. I'm looking at pigeon and even pagan differently now. But again, go ahead and look at some of the generals and some of the people that were under him and then see that most of them were not American. They weren't. They were from other places because, again, this is why I tell you to watch out for these rumors of wars, because unless there's some infighting going on between them, again, they already know. They are conspiring against the people. The elitists are at the top, and they feel things, the earth quaking, and now they're trying to go ahead and cause some kind of distractions. They're using their news, they're using their the media, they're using entertainment, they're using music industry, they're using the church, they're using all of these tools because, I just sense things differently. The way that some of these so-called pastors are speaking. And if you're someone that is a truth seeker and bringing truth, and how they're saying, oh, history, they're starting to talk about history and people doing their own research and stuff, and that's not the right way. You'll notice things like this because, again, they are owned by that same entity, that same corporation. More than likely, they come from foreigners as well. But since they look like you, just like they brought them here to look like you, then they took their root. They took their branches or their fruit out and then brought it in against you and put the enmity or enmity between you and their seed by using race and color and all these things and classism. And then we fall right for it. And then when we get mad about something going on, we blaming the wrong people because, again, none of these people have the power to do anything that hasn't been done to you by your God government. Okay? So again, here we go. Bird. Now, we do know that there's a lot of, I was reading something about the foreign birds and the aboriginal birds. And then, so we have that mix of this whole thing with the feathers and things like this going on. Who knows where these things came from? Again, did they bring them here? Did the foreign or native peoples bring them here? Mix them with yours and then come out with something new? Or is this something that was originally going on with our people here? Because I think our people were a very meek people, the underclassmen, as opposed to maybe the pharaohs or rulers and things like this. But again, so feathered, warm-blooded animal. Okay, so again, we're still talking about birds, okay? And then, again, the creations that they created on the foreign lands, they were sending them over here now, okay? Okay? In order to help manage the aboriginals here. And they did it with the earth, joined with the earth, like he says in Genesis 1, because they needed a darker race to be able to infiltrate. This is why you see the scouts and stuff for the Apache and all these people that they use for scouting out. Hence, look at the origins of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and you'll be amazed. Anyhow, when we're using those terms, this is using people that look like you to infiltrate you to make it easier to break up the ground, because this is what tilling is. It's a way to break up that that mass, that chaotic mass that was here when they originally set their eyes on the land. Okay. So again, we're going to talk about something what's still up to C 1400s is often used for a specific sense. The young of a bird, and God said in Genesis 1 that let the fowl fly above the earth. Okay, so he brought darkness with darkness, created some fowl. So you looking at these people like they're working for you when they have no plans to do so, because they're bound by some kind of oath or some kind of secret society or some kind of connection to something. Okay. Okay, or maybe paying dues because they, a lot of people they sent over here were prisoners, slaves, and all these other things, undesirables. So they basically found a way to utilize them here, because a lot of these people could look alike. um, so again, at some point in time, after they got them bred and fed by the aboriginals, they took them and placed them on high, or invited them into the house of God, which is that pyramid from the caste system. Okay, or the black and white checkered floor with the Freemasons, that is sometimes used, seen or depicted as a rug. Okay, so what's under the rug? You get it? Okay, and again, if you look up the George Washington Illuminati, you'll see the casket underneath his feet, and on top of that, there's a step up, and then you'll see that carpet there underneath his feet. And again, the dead is representing the African, so-called African American. And that's why everybody that comes here get to step up on that platform and be brought into the house of God as his servants over the street dwellers, or whatever they call them in the caste system. Okay? So again, you would have to look into the fourth day. Okay? Again, I mean, we could do it here, but then we're going far away from what we came here to do. So the young of the birds, fledgling, nestling, okay, nestling, okay, and of the young of other animals, because again, when they're talking about all this animalistic stuff, even in their ethnology and things in those books, shame on them. Speaking of people and treating people like animals is their forte. Okay, because if it would have said in Genesis 1 what they were actually talking about, you would already be able to know what's going on from the gate. So bees, fish, whatever, and human children. Look at that. Oh, so it says it. See, and this is why etymology is key. It says it right here. It's not biased. It doesn't try to manipulate. It just gives you the full disclosure of these terms and the terms that are related to it that's been used. Okay, so and human children. And this is why they kept the women and the children, because they could turn the minds, or shine that light that God wanted them to shine into the minds, because it says through, to let them do this over the waters and over this. But whenever it's pertaining to the earth, it says through. Let the fowl go through the earth, and let them do these things to the directly to the earth. Okay, so again, a nation. And we've been sending our children to these people to learn ever since. So the proper designation of the feathered creation is in E fowl. Okay, so again, this is why he sent the sun to the north and the moon, or the darker, to the what am I saying? To rule the night. Okay, the day. Okay, so the sun to rule the day, and then the lesser light, the moon, to go through or shine through the earth. So the groups that have these fowl tend to have been swarthier or darker groups originally. Okay, anyway, that came in through ancient Egypt, which could have something very well, I believe, to do with the coast of the southern, okay, Americas, and even all the way up to the north, okay, and then Texas and Florida, or La Florida, and Mexico and South America, okay. Again, hence ancient Egypt and America is some of the stuff that I throw in here. So yeah, figurative sense of secret source of information, man, fellow person. These are brotherhoods and things like that that were built and that Jesus was talking about right there in the Bible. The Lord was talking about in the Bible. Okay, and they speak in parables and they use signs and symbols in order for you not to know what they're talking about. So let's keep going. Okay, so planting class made rigid enforcement of slave codes. Okay, fledgling planters often labored alongside again. So yeah, they were able to be treated this kind of way. And so when we think that these was our brothers, that was the ones that was like slave, not masters, but you know the ones I'm saying that gave the whippings and kept everybody in check. They usually always show a so-called white man, but more than likely he was some form of a slave labor, Scottish or Irish or something like this too. And sometimes we look at them as the light-skinned Negro that was able to have this chore or this job, because again, those would have been the children of these so-called foreigners, and they will also been what do you call it? Different, a different stock, okay, that looked very similar to the American so-called Negro. To clear land and raise livestock. And again, stock and livestock, stock market, livestock, it still is making me think that this is a parable here, that we're actually really talking about people. So, and again, the fact that live is here, I would think living creatures. Okay. In addition, slaves, many of them are armed. Okay, again, because they can trust these people, right? Same way they love to go to different lands and go in with the locals, you know what I'm saying? In different land masses, but when it comes to going into the hood with the so-called American Negro, it's a no-go. So they'll go there and go try to feed all the babies in Africa and all this other stuff. But again, no one wants to do anything or start up anything here in America. Same thing with your celebrities. They do the same things because they know their origins. They know their origins. They're just puppets that are told to do what the government and the governing forces want you to. Frequently traveled supervised between plantations and to Charleston. Again, thanks for watching. If you want to see part 2, go ahead and stay tuned. I'm going to come back in with part 2 so that we don't make this video too long. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the content, go ahead and comment, subscribe, or share. Or even, if you want me to go in on something a little bit deeper, then let me know. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.